The right wing is talking a lot about critical race theory, as well as now cable news, following the defeat, of course, Terry McAuliffe in Virginia. So now, critical race theory. This is now the nefarious boogeyman that apparently the left has placed in all the schools in order to do something to the kids that's probably bad, or something and very, very bad and racist. So now, since last year, Fox News couldn't stop talking about critical race theory. Now, as I pointed out in the show, they talk about it, but they can never really seem to define it or even prove that it's being taught in schools. So now here's Tucker Carlson on a recent show now making the admission, after a year of talking about it, that he actually has no idea what it is.
You could say technically, Tucker, it's not being taught in the sense that, volumes have been written on critical race theory, and it's not been handed out as a textbook, but its influence and its tenets are in those schools.
I've never figured out what critical race theory is, to be totally honest, after a year of talking about it. They're teaching that some races are morally superior to others, that some are inherently sinful and some are inherently saintly, and that's immoral to teach that because it's wrong.
Oh my God, he admitted. They both admit it. Well, it's not technically being in the schools. It's not being taught in the sense. There's no volumes of critical race theory, and I don't even know what it is, says Tucker Carlson, but it's bad and something Nazis. Well, he'll get to the Nazi part later. I mean, come on. Oh, you know what? By the way, what Tucker Carlson said at the end, that would be wrong if it was taught in schools, except that it's not being taught in the schools. That is not what critical race theory is. It's not. And yet, you've spent the last year constantly bellyaching about the thing that you don't actually know what it is. Wonderful. Wonderful. So now, the thing is here, is this is all by design. We know this, okay? Before Fox News started talking about it, who here knew what critical race theory was? You would only know if you were basically a law student, because that's where it was taught. It's never been taught in K through 12. It's not. It's a college level course for law students. But now nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what it is. And so conservatives, they heard about it and they're like, that's it. That's it. We found something, the next culture war trick. We're just going to define it. We're going to take this thing that's in a college level course that, of course, most of our viewers, we're never going to go to college anyway, so they're never going to know. And we're going to define it, and we're going to make it into something that it's not, to say that it's bad, and then use it for political games. In fact, just like this.
This is not a semantic debate about what critical race theory means. Schools are teaching students, your children, that some races are inherently superior to other races. That's the definition of racism. That some children are born with the stain of sin inherently? That's Nazi stuff. It is. It's totally un-American. That should never be allowed. It's also factually untrue. No child is born with the stain of sin. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Also, you might want to stop with the questions, right? Oh, the whole thing is ridiculous.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That's not what critical race theory is. That's not. No, they're not teaching students that some races are inherently superior. That's total projection. Total projection. And it's just... So let me explain what critical race theory is, okay? Critical race theory is basically an academic concept that says that race is a social construct, and that racism is not just a product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something that is embedded in our legal systems and our policies, okay? And so the basic tenets of critical race theory, or CRT, emerged out of a framework for legal analysis in the late 1970s and early 1980s, created by legal scholars Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, and Richard Delgado, among others. An example of this critical race theory can be applied when looking back at housing, for example, in the 1930s. government officials literally would draw red lines around areas deemed poor financial risks, often as a result of the people in the area being of a certain racial composition, meaning, of course, black people. So now what happens after they draw that red line around this primarily black area? They would then use that as a way to deny mortgages or home ownership to people in those areas. So they pick out minority areas and then they refuse to offer mortgages. Therefore, and understand that real estate is one of the ways to build wealth. And so they essentially denied black people in the 30s the ability to generate wealth. Literal redlining. And that's why it's called redlining. So now redlining itself explicitly no longer exists, but it still is around in a different form. So, for example, single-family zoning, right? So single-family zoning is a way to prevent people from having affordable housing in certain areas. So you cannot build affordable housing in advantaged majority white neighborhoods. And so what does that do? The result of this means that people who are, poor, but majority black, cannot move into majority white neighborhoods, and it's essentially segregation. Now, critical race theory also says that there's basically racism in parts of everyday life, and that people, even without meaning to, can inadvertently make choices that could fuel racism, and again, not even know it. Now, when you think about that, that's pretty disturbing, right? Oh my God, I could be making choices and doing things that are negatively impacting people of color in my area, and I don't even know it. Well, now, what happens? Well, most people will feel bad about that, right? Oh my God, I didn't know. I had no idea that I was perpetuating a system of injustice. Okay, now the thing is, conservatives want to focus on, they want to teach you CRT so that you feel bad, right? So that you feel like you're responsible. But you're not. If you don't know that what you're doing is perpetuating a system of injustice, how is that your fault? Critical race theory does not teach that it's your fault, you're racist, you should feel bad for doing this. No, it's there to point out, like, hey, you're a beneficiary of a system that has treated one race more favorably than the other. Now, if you know about this system, you have one more tool that will allow you to work on dismantling that system. Okay? So now, again, feeling bad is not the point. It's working to fix those systems of injustice and to allow people to have more equity in the system. And of course, in order to do that, and to work towards that, you have to first know what's going on. You have to have knowledge that these problems exist in the first place. So critical race theory, again, is not saying you're racist and you should feel bad. That's what the right wing is trying to tell you. It just says, here's how racism is involved in daily life, and here's how maybe we should begin to work on dismantling those systems of oppression so that everyone can have an equal chance at the American dream. But see, for Tucker, and many on the right wing who don't know what it is, right? And I actually do think Tucker knows. But many of the right wing doesn't. Well, they don't want equity. They do not want black people to obtain the American dream. They like the systems of oppression that are in place, which keep those people down and them in power. Also gives them a very convenient scapegoat. For example, well, gee, if we do welfare programs, which, by the way, go to both black and white people, okay? If we expand welfare programs, I'm going to have to pay more taxes. If I'm rich like Tucker Carlson, I don't want my tax money to be used. So I'm going to get these people to fight against each other. I'm going to get poor black people, poor white people to fight against each other so that I can pay less in taxes. And that's it. I'm greedy, so I'm just going to make things up, and then I'm going to get you all mad at each other so that you fight while I sit back and laugh all the way to the bank. That's it. That's it. They love those systems of oppression because it keeps them in power. It keeps them wealthy. Very, very good culture war bait. Okay? Especially when, by the way, he says, oh, the left thinks you're all racist. I actually don't believe that. I don't think most people are racist. I think there are racist people, for sure. And many racist people happen to be part of the Republican Party. But racism does exist everywhere. There are even racist people on the left. I know, crazy, right? Not very many of them. But there are some. But here's the thing. Most people, not racist, but many people do have implicit bias based on racial stereotypes. But that's not the same as being an out-and-out racist, understand. Implicit bias is something that you don't know is there. But if you find out, then you can work on that, and you can get over that bias. Racism basically means you think you're superior to another person as a result of your inherent race or racial identity. So, but understand, this is what Tucker Carlson is ironically projecting onto the left, where he thinks one race is superior, and that is the white people. And one more thing that I want to address, okay? So now, this whole discussion actually came in response to lib pundits on cable news that were falsely saying that it was critical race theory, the perception that critical race theory is being taught in schools, which it's not, that pissed off parents and made them vote against Terry McAuliffe and for Glenn Youngkin. So I disagree with that. Working class parents were actually more pissed off that schools were closed as a result of COVID. Look, working class people got bills to pay. They couldn't go back to work because there's no affordable childcare. Terry McAuliffe offered them nothing economically at all. Nothing to help improve their material conditions. And so understand that the Democrats screwed him over. They did not pass human infrastructure because the corporate wing of the party and the weakness of progressives to stand their ground on these incredibly popular policies. They gave him nothing to work with. Terry McAuliffe had nothing to run on. Terry McAuliffe had the charisma of a piece of fucking driftwood. Terry McAuliffe is a Clintonite Democrat all the way. Centrist, corporatist. And what did he do? Since he didn't have anything economically populist to run on, he decided to use the Clinton playbook. You know what the Clinton playbook was? Trump bad. Trump bad. That's it. The McAuliffe campaign literally printed out mailers that were ads. Again, they literally paid for these things. That were ads saying how close Youngkin was with Trump. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. You know why? Because while Trump is bad, Trump wasn't on the ballot in Virginia. Youngkin distanced himself enough because he was more of a savvy politician and knew how to play the politics. He distanced himself from Trump after, of course, being very close to him to win the Republican primary, and gave the appearance that he might do something for the voters based on the CRT nonsense. Now, how many times, I ask you, are the Democrats going to replay the loser 2016 playbook of Trump bad, Trump bad? No, you got to give voters a reason to come out by running, I think, economically popular policy. And if you do that, I can guarantee that it will be whatever nonsense culture war issue that is trotted out by the right wing, who also does nothing to improve the material conditions in your life. In fact, they go out of their way to make it worse. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.